to you from Israel and the Galilee on the 15th of December, and it's, I don't know, about 9:44 in the morning, and it was a cold night. We were in the 40s. We'll hit 68 today. So I'm going to jump into the live stream real quick and put some posts up and make sure everything's working. Okay. Posts up and make sure everything's well. We got sound and picture. I'll put a few quick posts up. And let me just get my email up. And I'm almost done. Just want to pin one up and we'll get going. Got it. Okay. Being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise and we'll start. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, let's start with what's going on with Israel, Syria, and that type of thing. Last night we hit, I'm hearing 60-something sites, but I think during the night, I think the figure could have gotten higher in the 70s maybe. Some of the sites we hit were in the suburbs of Damascus. Now, we were not hitting personnel or people or civilians. These were just military buildings, structures, ammo dumps, missile sites, radars, what this type of thing. Okay, we weren't killing people at all. All right. The rebels that are running Syria now, or they think they're running Syria, are telling us to stop, and of course we're ignoring it. You know, they told us to stop before we hit them last night. It's not. We're not paying attention to them. Apparently, they got their hands on a lot of weapons that were left by Hezbollah. I think they were anti-tank missiles, quite a few. And I think then we blew some of them up. This is kind of a gray area. I'm not sure what happened, but they definitely, the Syrian rebels get their hands on some of them, I'm pretty sure. Okay. There's still chaos there. Now, the chaos is getting worse. The Americans came to where the Kurds live, which is northeast Syria, with their troops and moved in to the Kurd area with American troops. You got this? Okay. So the Americans are backing the Kurds to stop the Turkish-backed, whatever you want to call them, rebels, from attacking the Kurds and running them out of the area. So America directly, with their military, wearing American military uniforms, just to be crystal clear, are now having confrontation with Turkey over the Kurds. So this is the beginning of division there. Typically, in a situation like this, the Turkish Erdogan, the leader of Turkey, will back off. That's normal operating procedure for him. But we are in the latter days, the end times, maybe not. But I think he'll just ease up against the Kurds. The rebels, the Al Qaeda, ISIS rebels, are now saying that, oh, the Kurds are a vital part of Syria and they, have every right to be here and all this stuff. Well, the Kurds got a new paint job. It's the same ISIS Al Qaeda engine inside the car, but they gave it a nice new pink and yellow paint job to make it look like they're now hippies and peace-loving people. It's just a joke. They're still brutally dealing with many Syrians. Okay. Israel has, as far as I could see, zero intentions of leaving Syria. I don't know what their plans are. And you got to remember, their plans last week may not be what they are today, and today's plans may change by next week, so we don't know. Now to the Russian bases. Okay. There's a guy, and I put this on my Telegram. If you want my Telegram, just send me an email. My email address is in the chat up at the top. It's Israel Giving, one word, Israel, A-E-L, Israel Giving with the number 7 at gmail.com. And just write Telegram in the subject header and I'll send you the link. Most people use the app called Telegram Messenger, but I think you might be able to access it with a browser. I don't know the latest on that. Okay. Telegram's free, the app's free, it's all free, there's no money involved for anything. You don't pay extra to get special information on my site, none of that. Okay. They do have premium channels there where you gotta, I don't know, but I don't deal with that, I use Patreon, but I have no thing where you pay a certain amount of money every month to see special data or special broadcasts. I don't do that. The Bible, the New Testament says, freely you have received, freely you shall give. I don't sell anything, okay? That's wrong. Free will offerings are the way to go, not selling things, okay? All right, so he got some video footage of the Navy base that Russia has, or we should start saying had, in Latakia, Syria, which had an air base walking distance, 2-3 kilometers, I'm thinking, away from the Navy base. And they've shut most of their other bases. They've run convoys evacuating equipment and personnel to the air base and the Navy base in Latakia. The rebels are leaving them alone, and it appears the deal they struck was, if Putin probably said something along the lines of, if you're going to strike my bases, I'm going to keep bombing you. I'm going to leave Syria. If you let me get out peacefully, I won't bomb you, I'll just go away. And that's what the rebels went for. They didn't want to start a fight with Russia. Starting a fight with Russia is not the same as starting a fight with Israel when you get to world opinion. They start up with Russia, they got a problem with Iran, North Korea, China, Cuba, Venezuela, Belarus, and some other countries, so they didn't want that. And Putin's going. The S-400 missile systems at the air base and I believe the Navy base, both, have been deactivated. In other words, they're not operational. And that means they're getting ready to disassemble and take them out. Now, the last thing they're going to take out is the protective missiles that protect them from airstrikes, aircraft, drones, rockets, missiles, and all this, right? Now they're deactivated, getting ready to be dismantled as of, a day ago or so. They sent a few Russian ships to extract personnel and equipment, and that convoy left. The warships are not there. And as far as I know, they're not there. The videos are not showing them there. They still have a few airplanes there at the air base. I'm not sure, maybe 12 or something. They don't have 50 or 100. They got some there, different kinds. And, when the time comes, they'll just fly them out. A lot of their stuff, I don't know if all of it, but a lot of it's going to Libya, which is, interesting. They've been moving big cargo planes out of there. So, those are the huge cargo planes. The nose opens and you could drive tanks inside and stuff like that. They're leaving. I don't know if you could put tanks in there. You could put trucks and jeeps in there. A tank could be very heavy. I don't know if maybe they could take one tank. I don't know. But anyway, the ships could definitely take tanks, lots of them. And they're continuing to evacuate everything out of there. And all the indications are what I said. They're going to be abandoning the bases, but they're going to strip it of equipment. There's also reports of Russia destroying military equipment before they're leaving. In other words, this is probably some of the stuff that it's not economically feasible or tactically feasible to remove it, so they're blowing it up. Okay? Now, these are all the signs are lining up to Russia abandoning the base and leaving. Okay? So that seems to be, the case quite strongly. And that's a defeat for Russia because they're not going to be running warships in the Mediterranean. That was their only Mediterranean base. Now, they are setting up something in Sudan or South Sudan on the Red Sea. I don't know to what extent it's been set up, but they may try to accelerate that, but I doubt it. Now, that's the Red Sea. They got to go through the Suez Canal with Egypt to get into the Mediterranean. It's not the same thing. Okay? I would think they're not going to pursue that, but they might, but I doubt it. They have it set up as a small little thing. It's not the Mediterranean. It's not the same thing. And if they have a hassle with Egypt, Egypt gets block them from going through the Suez Canal, which connects the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. So I don't think they're going to go that route. When they were in Latakia, Syria, they were on the Mediterranean, so there was no blocking them out of the Mediterranean. Their ships were in the water of the Mediterranean. This is a very tactical, strategic defeat for Russia, and NATO will take advantage of that, believe me. Okay. So if anything, this pushed the attack on Russia closer. Russia does not have positioning to run around in the Mediterranean and harass or attack NATO countries in the Mediterranean, of which is quite a few, plus EU countries. So Russia got a big setback, and I'm telling you, this is big. Okay? Big. The rebels that are running Syria are not talking at all about what they're going to do with America. And America has no intentions of leaving. And if they start trying to shove American and UK bases out of Syria, I think you could expect a rain of missiles, bombs, and everything else on the rebel forces. This is not acceptable to America. So Syria is divided. You got Kurdish zones, American zones, Turkish zones, Israeli zones. The Druze in southern Syria want to join Israel. They're telling Israel to annex it. I don't know where that'll go. Israel may dump the residents of Gaza into that portion of Syria they're occupying. That seems to be a logical conclusion. Now, they may not build a refugee camp for them because that involves a lot of expense. And then you got to feed them medical, clothing, and police them. And I think they may just bring them into Syria and say, you're on your own, dudes. Who's going to stop us? America? This probably won't happen until Trump gets in. If prophetically that ever does occur. When I get into the drones, you'll start doubting if that'll ever happen. It may or it may not, but it may not. But we'll get into that in a while. The rebels will scream these people are Palestinians and they're not Syrians. And to some extent that's the truth. But these so-called Palestinians, Yasser Arafat in the late 80s invented the term Palestinians. They used to be called Arabs, not Palestinians. So it's crazy. A lot of them come from Jordan. A lot of them have Jordan passports. Nobody's telling us if Syrians can use Syrian passports in Europe or other countries right now. Germany and other countries in Europe are paying these people a premium if they originated from Syria under, an amnesty or something like that. They're saying they got political, religious prosecution in their country. They need a safe haven there, amnesty or whatever the terms they're using, and they're offering to pay them to go back to Syria. Imagine some might actually go. I heard 27,000 euros in Germany. Now could be for an individual, it could be for a family, I don't know. Israel could likely do something like that with the Gazans too. But I don't think if we dump them in Syria, we're going to give them anything like that. The rebels are broke. Rest assured, they're broke in Syria. So they might let it happen. Because what are these people going to do with the money? Well, they're going to buy pita bread, hummus, falafel, shoes. They're going to spend it. And it'll give some boost to the economy. Okay, remember, Bashar Assad cleaned the place out, $135 billion. America's sitting on the oil area, and American oil companies are benefiting, and if the rebels say, no, that's their oil, our oil, well, that would be the gravest of insults to America. You want to take money away from us? Oh, well, we'll kill you. So they're not doing that. They're not telling Turkey they can't annex pieces of Syria. It's nonsense. It's chaos, guys. It's chaos. Do I think this rebel government can last? Unlikely. They're not the long run, believe me. So Iraq built 300 kilometers of walls, which is about just rough cut, 180 miles, probably 190 or 200 miles, something like that. Say 180 miles of concrete walls protecting the Iraq-Syria border on the Iraq side. And they have tanks and lots of soldiers there protecting the border. So they're afraid of an incursion, and the rebels attacking Iraq would likely be their next move. Although their party line right now is, we just want to help the people of Syria. We want to solidify the country and make it nice, and we're not going to start a conflict with Israel or anybody. Well, if you start believing Al-Qaeda and ISIS with a new paint job, that's like believing Mickey Mouse is real, It's pretty sad. No international body has said we recognize the new Syrian government. So Israel has no treaties with this new government. So that's why we took the Syrian side of Golan and we're moving in other area. But I'm not getting any clear signals from the Israeli government as to what they're up to, with going in as deep as being like 9, maybe 10 miles. It's probably about 9 or 10 miles away from Damascus, with a good amount of tanks and stuff. So what are we doing? You know, it seems we're slicing off a big piece of the pie to create a rather generous buffer zone that could go out 40 miles. When you start counting the Syrian side of the Golan Heights, I think you'll get to about 40 miles. And that is a very adequate buffer zone. Now, are we going to leave the Syrian people living there? I don't know. People in Israel, I've heard them say, I read a post, how long, people are saying, like, how long will it be till we're eating hummus in Damascus? Well, our tanks are not in Damascus. They're in the suburbs. So they may not want to bother with Damascus, because that could lead to house-to-house fighting. And just leave, you know, just take right outside of Damascus. It could be to dump the Palestinians there. It could be just have a buffer zone, keep the rebels far away from us. I don't know yet. And remember, the things that Israel is doing are probably quite fluid right now. In other words, they're changing all the time. But we have not yet finished destroying their weapons. I think Israel's going to try to get about 95%. They're never going to get 100%. They're probably going to try to get about 95%. What are the rebels going to do with this Russian base? That's $1 million question. I think when Russia leaves the Khomeini airstrip near, you know, that's the Latakia air base next to the Russian Navy base, I think they're going to leave the runways and the control towers intact, but I think the radar will either go or be destroyed, but they may leave it. I don't know. If they don't take it away, Israel will probably destroy the radar, because it could be used as an early warning that, you know, what Israel's up to. Plus, it can reach out over the Mediterranean some way. So I think Israel will take it out. That's a simple thing. 2 jets fly in and shoot rockets at the conning tower and the control for the radar and the radar dish and all that. That's a simple little quick maneuver. They'll probably leave the empty buildings. I think they'll do that. They may have electrical generators there. I don't know if they'll leave that or not. They may just be on the grid or both. I don't know. All the weapons will be taken out. So if they have a functional port or pier or Navy base, all the above, other countries' ships could dock up at Syria. Turkish ships, which wouldn't be comforting to Israel. Iran could actually try to bring a ship in there, but that would be suicide for the ship today. Israel could dock up there, which I don't think you'll see, because the ship would be too vulnerable. They could hit it with anti-tank missiles from up to 5 miles away, so that's probably not going to happen. Anti-tank missiles are shoulder fired, so guerrilla forces could creep around in the brush and get as close as they dare and then shoot at it. I think it may get destroyed by Israel. America may want the base, I don't know. I'm not thinking America wants to dock warships up there with the rebels, but you never know. So we got to figure out what's going on with Israel and Damascus. If Israel does decide to occupy the city of Damascus proper and control it, the way that would work is they'd have to bring a lot of troops and tanks and Humvees and armored personnel carriers in and set up around the headquarters type buildings in Damascus and start controlling major thoroughfares, perhaps checkpoints. I don't know. I don't see us doing that. That wouldn't give us much of a gain of anything. What would we gain? Keep the rebels out of Damascus, which makes them look like they're not in control, and would stop other countries from recognizing their new government as the new Syrian government. This could be the case. The rebels, in my opinion, would throw away pawns. Now, if they act like good little Al-Qaeda and ISIS boys, they'll attack Iraq. Remember, the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq, which the Iraq government never did a thing about, probably working with them, were attacking American bases about 30 times, plus the embassy consulate over there many times. So America has an axe to grind with Iraq. Iraq did support Hamas and Hezbollah by shooting drones and missiles at us on a million occasions, but very light attacks that were almost always defeated. So there's an axe to grind. And how would the rebels roll into Iraq now with tanks on the border, troops on the border, concrete walls, and they have no aircraft and no navy? So the $1,000,000 question is, how will they do it? I don't think they will. I don't know how they'll get in. They probably have a few dozen tanks or something like that, but that's not gonna. It's not gonna work for them. So I'm not seeing them attacking Iraq right now. I'm seeing them trying to solidify the border, the country of Syria, and end the various factions, different types of Shiites and Sunnis and Alawites fighting with each other, and Kurds, and they're trying to end that. They're making believe America doesn't have 12 bases in Syria and keeping the oil for the American companies, and now protecting the Kurds. So what if the Turkish-backed forces attack the Kurds while the American soldiers are there, which they now are, and start wounding and killing American soldiers? Well, these would not be Turkish soldiers wearing Turkish military uniforms. They're rebels supported by Turkey. So America would just grab a few A-10s and F-15s, F-16s, whatever, and drop all kinds of bombs and missiles and rockets on the heads of the rebels. Backed by Turkey. That's what will happen. I haven't heard America bellyache about Turkey in a buffer zone, so they may leave that go. Qatar has been threatened by Iran, a serious threat, saying, you're close to crossing a red line, you're dancing with the Americans, and would America defend Qatar against Iran? Most likely. Rocket Man Kim, the Looney Tunes running North Korea, is facing some sort of revolt overthrow. They're talking about it in the media. It's not out there in the front of the media, but it's going on. I don't know how real it is. He reigns that place with an iron hand, and I'm not thinking it's going to be real easy. Netanyahu seems to be encouraging a revolt against the mullahs in Iran. But let's see if that gets legs. So what's next in Syria? I don't know. I don't think anybody does. We don't know. I mean, it's very fluid. It's very transitional. The American and Israeli plans would probably be next Iraq, then Iran. But I don't know what's going on. I don't think any of us do, and I'm not even sure Israel and America know what's going on. They're just huffing it and playing it by ear. So, I don't know. All kinds of rumors. Russia's going to attack NATO. Listen, we've heard Russia flap their jaws for years. Did they ever attack NATO? No. Could there be a day when they do? Absolutely. So far, nothing. They try to enhance attacks on Ukraine. That's all they do. Remember, Russia now is quite weak, losing the base in the Mediterranean. So this could encourage more pressure on Russia. Asia Pacific theater, status quo, no unusual events in the last day or two. So now we go to the drones. I got a list. I don't know if it's a complete list of places the drones have been striking, and I'll read you my list. I don't know if I can find it. I put it in my notes. It's here someplace. Oh, before we go any further, let's see. A prayer request for William Robert, W.R. William Robert, W.R. Prayer request, healing and pain relief of the teeth. W.R. William Robert, healing and pain relief of the teeth. Next one is a prayer request for a dog. Dog's name is Chico. Chico. Chico the dog. Chico the dog. Prayer request. Chico got a cut in the paw, so we want to pray for healing. All right, let's get back to the drones. Let me take out those prayer requests. So Chico the dog, healing and pain relief for a cut in the paw for Chico the dog. The Russians leaving Syria is very good for Israel, by the way. Very good. The Christians in Syria were told not to observe Christmas celebrations. See, now this is an oppressive government, Sharia law. And this is what they're doing while they're trying to get the support of the international community. When they do get the support, they'll take the Christians out and murder them. Or they may give them a chance to leave Syria or something like that. Our hits in Damascus last night were 24 military targets, not hitting people. 24 last night in the Damascus area. That's a lot. The Muslim media, the pro-terrorist media, was saying that Russia had some sort of deal with the rebels. Yeah, the deal was let me get my stuff out of there and I'll leave. They're trying to make it look like, the Russians are going to work with them or something. The Russians were blowing them up with bombs in the early days. They're not working. I think the Iranian threat on Qatar is rather empty. I don't think they got the brass to do anything like that with all the American warships in the area and aircraft and everything else. New York City had to briefly shut their airport. I think it was JFK Airport, their biggest airport, because of drones. One of these ambulance air flights, somewhere in America, had to divert, couldn't bring the guy or the passenger that was injured or sick to the hospital because there was drone activity. Okay, so where are the drones? I'll give you a list. First of all, they're popping up in Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Maine, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. got the panic. Montana, California, New York City, New Jersey, Boston, Arizona. They're all over America. And we're going to discuss this. Let me make sure I got other things in my notes I get out, and then we're going to do a deep dive again into the drones. China is saying, we got drones over China. This is more than likely a psyops, so people don't think China did it. Because, well, we got them here. Yeah, this is what I told you. It's probably China. I told you yesterday, how does China provoke Taiwan? Must be 25 or 40 times in the last year and a half or so. The Taiwanese people get up in the morning and they got, 5 or 10 Chinese warships around their country and dozens of aircraft flying overhead in restricted airspace. So this could be a tactic. You do it. You wear the Taiwan army down and they say, oh, another alert. Let's go sit out there. Hey, it's nice outside. Look, I'm going to close my eyes and take a nap. They don't think anything's ever going to happen. And then one day there's another one, and guess what? They start bombing and missile attacking Taiwan. But it does provoke them. So America is not having a direct conflict with Turkey. It's with their proxies. They're the Turkish-backed parts of this rebel force. So let's go into the drones and take a deep dive. Oh, Oregon too. The drones have been in Oregon. And when they went to Rhode Island, there was an American Navy base. And they've also been in Boston. I think I said that. So the drones are all over the place, guys. Okay? And it is creating panic with people in America that don't normally play the survivalist prepper militia panic game. Okay? This is people that are worried about, shopping for Christmas, taking their Christmas vacations, getting a new car, playing online games, what's the latest movie coming out, things like this. These kind of people are getting freaked out. let me just lay this bare for you. America is either unable to deal with the drones on a tactical level, or they're letting it happen. Now, you tell me if there's another explanation, because I can't find one. The drones are real. There was some rumors going around they're not all drones. They're not drones. So people have said they see the thing. It's got lights. It hovers. Helicopters approach. It shuts the lights and zoom. It's out of there. There are no aliens from other worlds in the Bible. How do they get through the firmament? They can't. There are none. It doesn't exist. Forget it. These are from people. Is it the American government doing it? I would say the possibility of that is so small, it's not worth considering. You would have probably thousands of people involved in this fraud against the American people. They're not going to do that, okay? They're just not. It's stupid. It makes no sense. So they're either letting it happen or they're unable to stop it. If you think they're unable to stop it, the best theory is if they shoot the drones down, there's going to be shrapnel that could hit people. Do you think the American government with Joe Biden, open border Biden, is worried about the people in the United States and cares about them? You think that? Do you really think that? Come on. Let me go into the live stream and see if I have garbage to throw out here. We have a few nincompoops that get pleasure out of going into chats with people they don't know and insulting them. Someone said hit the like button. Guys, it's a waste of breath. People, 95 to 99% of the people don't do offerings and don't hit the like button. They won't even hit the like button. Okay? So why ask them? It's a waste of time. I do this because the Lord wants me to do it. And there are a very small amount of people that benefit from this that I like and they like me. The majority of people could care less about me. And they don't do offerings and they don't hit the like button and they just come in all the time. I don't understand them, but I don't care. I mean, it's not something, I do this until I'm told it's time to do something else. That's all. And I know that time is close. So that's it. Feel free to report these nincompoops that come around with insults, So, I don't believe it's the American government doing it. The motive isn't there. I just don't see it. Because it puts them in the spotlight too much. They would find a cleaner way to scare the people. So I don't think it's that. I don't think it's regular planes. I think it's drones. And this is what these big social media people are not telling you. Do you ever hear them talk about the sleeper agents anymore? No. Because they're all S-bots. That's why they have big sites. Because they're S-bots and they get promoted and they have this satanic party line. Practically every one of them makes believe they're a believer. You know, they say, oh, Ezekiel 38, or you got to trust the Lord. Or, you know, they're not believers. They could care less about the Lord. Are they satanic believers? Absolutely, the whole lot of them, or they wouldn't be so big. And they're driving their social media with witchcraft and sorcery. They're selling goods. They're selling people to go out and buy dehydrated food in plastic buckets. And don't tell the people how much garbage this is to eat. And they're selling the people on, rely on yourself, get guns, bullets, survival food, medical gear, water, and you'll survive. You don't need God. Well, they tell you need God, but their message is rely on yourself and your fellow man in your bug out location. It's the stupidest thing in the world. None of them ever tell you America's the daughter of Babylon. Find me one. They're not your friends. Okay? They scare you. They talk about aliens. They talk about nukes. If they had nukes in the reality that they say they do, don't you think they would have been used? Forget Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That was firebombs like Dresden and Hamburg just before. That's all it was. The houses, frequently the houses there were made out of paper and wood. The damage in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, identical to Tokyo, which was firebombed. They had a cool idea. Maybe they actually fooled the Japanese into thinking they had some sort of nuclear bomb or hydrogen bomb or something like that. Okay? And there's no documented use of any of these things ever. Ever. Everybody's running around. These people are beating the drum. Oh, the nuke, the nuke, the nuke. And it gets people fearful. And then people get fearful. They drink. They take drugs. They get sick. They get despondent. They get depressed. They get irritable. They get this. They get that. And they're laughing at the people. Okay? These big, news sites that, oh, and they show you the EAMs. My gosh, there's loads of them out there now, EAMs. They listen to emergency action messages. Nuclear planes are up over America. Give me a break. What are they going to do? Nuke America? I mean, special command planes for war are up over America. Is that true? Probably is. I don't know why they do it, but they're probably fearful of attacks. Maybe they're detecting subs offshore. I don't know. And they don't want planes to get killed on the ground. They want to have some planes up in the air. Yeah, they're probably real. Planes going to special mountain compounds in, I don't know, Montana, Wyoming, wherever they are. Yeah, that's probably real too. What are they bringing there? Who the heck knows? What are these planes doing? It's very hard for them to tell. People sit there for hours and listen to EAMs. Why? I think it's boring to listen to them. You don't know what the heck is really going on, and everything's encrypted. They don't know. They can track planes only if the transponders are on. If the American planes or foreign planes shut their transponders off, they can't pick them up. And of course they're going to shut their transponders off when they're trying to do something that's classified or secret. This is playing to people. Rely on yourself. Rely on other people. Cursed be the man that trusteth man. That's in the Bible. What do they teach you to do? Trust in man. What do they do? It's even worse. They trust in unclean spirits. They're the idiots of idiots. But they're not propagating a message to trust in God. Listen, you want survival food? Go to your supermarket and buy canned food. Buy canned vegetables. Buy soup with vegetables, noodles for carbohydrates, water for liquids, and meat in there, meatballs or stuff like that, or chicken. Buy tuna. Buy sardines. Buy salmon, get it in an all-metal can. It'll last for years. Well, why do you think you're going to save yourself with food? What's wrong? They don't teach Jeremiah 50:51, the destruction of the daughter of Babylon, America. They don't teach it. They don't want you to know. Name one big survival site on the internet that teaches America's the daughter of Babylon. Jeremiah 50:51, Isaiah 47. None. There's not one out there. Name one that teaches Jeremiah 30 verse 11 and Jeremiah 46:28. The Lord will destroy all the nations that he scattered the Israelites into. I make about 125 such nations. And it's associated with the birth pangs, with now, with the birth, with the travail, the actual birth of the nation in a day. It's in Jeremiah 30:11. Read it. In Jeremiah 46:28. They never talk about that. One site that talks about the year of recompenses and the day of vengeance. Not one. Big survival prepper. Not one site. There's not one site that talks about Isaiah 63, which talks about the year of redemption, also associated with the day of vengeance. So the day of vengeance is in both the year of recompenses, year of redemption. Isaiah 61, the first few verses, talks about the acceptable year with the day of vengeance, which would be year of redemption, which could line up with the Jubilee year. That's a possible theory. If that is correct, it would be around it'd be around the second, third week of February in like 2 months. Yeah, 2 months. I said 2 months. Yeah, it could be. I can't give you a written guarantee. But why did Yeshua refer to it as the acceptable year of the Lord, which is when every man is returned to his family and gets his land back, his house and land back, or farm back, whatever. Because that's what happens in the year of redemption. We get all our land back, which is going to make Israel about 100 times bigger than what there is now. Why don't they teach that? A few of them are starting to teach Jeremiah 49 now. Very few of them are starting to teach that the countries in Psalm 83, which seems to be Zechariah 12, are not in the Gog and Magog war, so the Zechariah 12/Psalm 83 war happens before the Gog and Magog war of Ezekiel 38-39. Yeah, there's a few that teach that. Bill Salas is one that teaches it in a goofy way, but he does teach it. How many of them teach Elam, which is predominantly Iran, is going to be destroyed so bad that people have to leave the country and they're scattered into every country around the world, and the sword chases them and they're wiped out, and then they recover at the end. So you see Persia in the Gog and Magog war, but they don't teach that Daniel 9:24 never says 77s or 70 weeks. It says 70. In every single Hebrew manuscript going back to 900 AD. Shavim, same exact word, 70 years, like the Babylonian captivity, which Daniel was in. So he knew what the first 70 was, and there's another 70. And it starts with the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, the miraculous sign. Matthew 24:30, Revelation 1:7. You know, they don't teach any of this. They just don't teach it. The tares and the wheat in Matthew 13. Let them grow up together, and then you can't tell them apart. And if you root the tares up, you'll pull the wheat out with them. So let the angels do it. So they'll throw that off in the future. Do you think that happens when we have New Jerusalem? How the heck are the tares going to get into New Jerusalem? New Jerusalem has 12 gates. Revelation 21. Each one looks like a giant, is a giant pearl. and it's guarded by an angel. And each of these gates is named after one of the tribes of Israel. So you've got to be incorporated into the tribes of Israel. And I keep telling you, if you're a real believer in Yeshua HaMashiach, you're in Israel. He's the king of Israel, the high priest in Melchizedek, and he calls the believers his brethren. So how the heck could you not be in Israel if you're his brethren? And he's from Judah. That word Jew, Yud, comes from Judah. And how many of these people that go to church hate Israel and hate Judah? One of the biggest bozos on the internet that hates Israel and hates the Jews, a social media goof, extreme hatred of Israel and Jews, was refraining from saying anything about Syria for the longest time. Because it was definitely a victory for Israel. And this character hates it so much, he went into denial, couldn't deal with it. Mentioned it a little bit. Now this same goofball is saying that the drones are really American drones. This same thing, this character is going on tilt. In other words, one step or two steps away from the loony bin. Can't deal with it. The obvious answer is America either is unable tactically or technically to deal with the drones, or they're letting it happen. They didn't do it. People that are going to run around saying America did the drones are doing it out of denial. They just can't believe it's happening. Most of the people in this world have heard theories that the daughter of Babylon is America and gets destroyed, but they're not ready to really believe it. The third temple is coming. Well, that's a nice comment, but let me kind of help you a little bit here, okay? The first temple in the Bible that's written in the Bible was Solomon's temple, right? The next temple was Zerubbabel's temple. It was real. Go to Google Images and look for artist representations of it. The third temple was Herod's temple. And yes, Yeshua referred to it as a temple. When he ran the money changers out, referencing that temple, he said, "My father's house, a house of prayer." You're making it into merchandise, the people into merchandise. Chased them out with a rope. If it was a Roman fort, would he chase them out with a rope? Or if it was a Greek temple? No. So we've already had 3 temples. Why do all these church people on the social media tell you the next temple's the third temple? I only have one scripture: he that loveth and maketh a lie. How am I saying these things? Oh, I used my tongue in my mouth. Somebody posted Romans 7:15-20. Okay, let's look it up. Romans, where'd you go? Get this open. Romans 7:15. For that which I do allow not, for what I would, that do I not, but what I hate, that I do. If then I do that. Okay, this is... It's a good scripture. Thank you for posting it. It's not really tied to what I'm trying to cover today, so I'm going to move on. All the scriptures are good, really. Jeremiah is Old Testament. Let me remind you, the apostles and Yeshua preached only out of the Old Testament. What's been happening since the dawn of time? I don't know what you're trying to say. If you want to discredit me, the only way that's going to work here is using scripture, not worldly logic. Nobody here is going to pay attention to you, I don't think. None of the people will follow me. America is okay. America is close to being destroyed. And there's a lot of Jews that were sent to Australia, weren't they? They're still there. I've met some. And they're being discriminated against by the Muslims in your country with the cooperation of the government of Australia. Let me read you a scripture, Jeremiah 30:11. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee, speaking to Israel. Though I make a full end of all heathen nations, whither I have scattered thee. There you go. That's the future of Australia. Have a good time. You can keep deluding yourself. You see, these people don't know the Bible. They're not the elect. Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many be that find it. That's them. They don't know the scriptures. They don't spend time in the Bible. They listen to the study Bibles, the commentaries, and the guys with the big buildings who call themselves the pastors of the churches. And they don't read the Bible. They don't even know they're being lied to. They don't even know it. How could you say it's only the Old Testament? I mean, what are you supposed to do? So basically, let's rip everything out of our Bible from Malachi forward and just run with the New Testament. Yet, Yeshua and the apostles preached only out of the Old Testament. The New Testament is scripture. But so is the Old Testament. Let me tell you the sheer blindness of these people, okay? I'm going to read you a few scriptures in Matthew 5, and you'll see how blind they are, and you're never going to take them out of it because they're not the elect. Matthew 5:17, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. Well, they say the law is done away with, but they don't say the prophets are done away with. If the prophets were done away with, they couldn't do the Ezekiel 38:39, which is their way of telling Israel and the Jews, you're either going to get your head cut off or you're going to take the mark and go to the lake of fire for eternity. If that's not replacement theology, I don't know what is. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Oh, so he said a few words earlier he didn't come to destroy the law, instead he fulfilled it. So the law is fulfilled. Have you seen New Jerusalem lately with the see-through gold streets? Have you seen the people with everlasting life yet? Have you, what have you seen? For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Now, you could read this to these people till you're blue in the face, and they will never believe it, yet they're going to turn around and tell you they're Christians. And this is the New Testament. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So if you break one of them, you may still get into heaven and you teach people to, but you'll be called least. But they break all of them. They break the Ten Commandments. The churches break the Ten Commandments. They changed the Sabbath to Sunday. What does the Sabbath represent? It's a holy set-aside day by Father God Jehovah. Okay? And it's the day that he rested. 6 days for creation, 1 day for rest. That's the Sabbath. They changed it from the 7th day, the rest day, to the first day of the week. Sunday. This is based on the Hebrew Bible. The Gregorian calendar didn't exist until Pope Gregory came, centuries after Yeshua. So how can you change the day that God created the earth and made it a holy day and set it aside? They do, they break it. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The Catholics created Mass for Christ, which is what Christmas is. Christ Mass, Mass for Christ. What do the Catholics tell you happens when people take Mass? They eat the wafer and drink the grape juice or something, right? Christ, they'll tell you, and you can read this, that the Messiah gets drawn down from heaven and re-crucified again every time somebody does Mass for Christ. Check it out yourself in Google or Yahoo, wherever you go. Okay? And that's what the Pentecostal evangelical denomination churches do. They hold Mass, not the way the Catholics do, but not very different either. They call it communion, which is biblical actually, so they don't really hold Mass for Christ, to be fair, but they celebrate Mass for Christ Day on December 25th. They don't really hold Mass like the Catholics, the Presbyterians, the Episcopalians. They don't do that. That's not fair. But they do a communion, which is allowed, but you got to be careful who you take communion with. You don't want to do it on unworthy state, but when you're in these places, you're in an unworthy state. But you know, these people don't want Jehovah. They don't want Yeshua the Messiah. They want a different doctrine that their churches have rewritten. Go ye forth into all the world, take money from those who would enter the kingdom of God, and buy a big building with it that nobody can benefit from or live in except the pastor or the denomination. Did they ever do that in the Bible anywhere in the New Testament? Never. Did they sell their possessions in Acts 2 to meet the needs of the people? Yes. Is there any of these churches with the buildings that do that? No. Were they all united in the doctrine of Christ? Yes. Are the churches united? No. Pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, amillennial, house church, building church, pray in the Spirit, don't pray in the Spirit, baptize in the Holy Spirit, don't baptize in the Holy Spirit, and meet on Saturday, meet on Sunday ad nauseum. They're all into doing variants and denominations, which the Bible tells you in Galatians 5:21, people that do these things will not inherit the kingdom of God. Read Galatians 5:19 to 21. It's right in your Bible. You want me to read it? I'll read it. And these people, I'm going to read it to them in their own Bible, out of the New Testament, and they are not going to stop going to these churches. They will not stop. They reject Yeshua. You don't understand. They don't want Yeshua. They don't know what spirit they're of. They're of the unclean spirits, but they don't know it. Now, the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness. Now, they talk against adultery and fornication. Uncleanness, they have no idea what that is, because you have to have the law to be unclean, don't you? Lasciviousness, that's porn, pole dancing, stuff like that. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred. Variance. Variance means you have doctrinal statements that are different, yet you recognize everybody else's doctrinal statement as possibly true and fellowship with them. Okay? Pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, amillennial, all that I just covered. Emulations, wrath, strife, seditions. Seditions is a word that means divisions. Baptist, Lutheran, Catholics, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, uh, Assemblies of God, Church of God, blah, 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 blah. Are it's like Paul's saying, some of you say you're with Apollos or Cephas. Paul said it's wrong. Seditions, heresies, that's like a denomination. It's a sect. The denomination is a sect. Envyings, murders. Notice these violations of the law are right up there with murder and adultery, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. There it is. So they'll attack me, the messenger. They won't attack the scriptures. Why? Because they're not believers. They go to church. They're not believers. Believers generally came out from among them. Touch not the unclean thing. They're unclean. These are not believers. You're banging your head against the wall trying to get these people to receive the gospel. Not that you should stop trying, because there probably are some amongst them that are going to come out. I wouldn't expect the flood, but there'll be some. They're not believers. 2 Corinthians 11:4. For if he that cometh preacheth another Jesus whom we have not preached, so that means it's possible to preach another Jesus, isn't it? Or if you receive another spirit, which is an unclean spirit, which you have not received from the apostles, or another gospel, which you have not accepted, you might bear well with him. That's what goes on in the churches. They have another gospel. They have several different gospels. Satan has created a smorgasbord of churches. All false. Go pick who you want. Who does Satan go after? Let's go to Revelation 12. And the dragon was wroth with the woman. The woman is Israel, and you're in Israel if you're really a believer in Yeshua. The dragon is Satan. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Now that would be any believer in Yeshua HaMashiach, Israelite born or non-Israelite born, which keep the commandments of God. Now, that's the law. The commandments of God is the law. They don't even keep the 10 commandments. Remember the Sabbath? Okay. The commandments of God, and have the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. Do they have the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach? No, they don't. The law is not dead. When the Israelites had the Romans kill Yeshua, they got a 2,000-year punishment, which is about up. The church ever teach this? Any of these schmucks on the internet ever teach it to you? No. Can I read it to you? Yes. Hosea 6:1 and 2. 2 days, after 2 days. Now, let's go to 1. I was in 2. Come and let us return unto Jehovah. The church can't say that's them, but that's why they don't read this to you. Because return to Jehovah would mean the church has fallen away. They can't do that, okay? So it never was in there in the first place with the church as it is in its present day form, Come and let us return unto Jehovah, for he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days, remember Peter said 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord. So after 2,000 years, so you're basically, when it says 2 days, it's not a precise actual calendar calculated 2,000 years, in my opinion. It's giving us an estimate, okay? After 2 days will he revive us. And that's when we get everlasting life, which could happen any day now. That's another Bible study. Read John 6:40 with Zechariah 12:10. John 6:40 with Zechariah 12:10, and 1 John 3:2, and Revelation 1:7, and you'll get the idea. In the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. The third day is a millennium, and we live in New Jerusalem. Okay? They reject this. They don't want any part of it. Okay? They don't even know about this. Because they say, oh, that's the Old Testament. Let's disregard that and just stay in the New Testament. Let's go to Matthew 7. And let me show you the future of these people in the church that practice the way they do. And it's rather shocking. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Well, they preach incorrect. They preach against Yeshua. All 2 billion of the Catholics, evangelicals, Pentecostals, nominal, all 2 billion of them. Wherefore, by their fruits you shall know them. Their fruits stink. Not every one that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. The law is not done away with, but they teach it. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? Guess what, kids? The Jews don't prophesy in the name of Yeshua, the Messiah. They'd get beaten up, thrown out of synagogue. The Hindus don't, the Buddhists don't, the Muslims don't, the atheists don't, the communists don't. Who does? The churches. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils. Only the churches will talk like that. Not the synagogues, not the other religions. And in thy name done many wonderful works. They built big buildings and stuff like that. Have camps in the summer, all this nonsense. Schools, Christian schools. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you, depart from me, you that work iniquity. The word for iniquity means lawless. It means they're breaking the law. It means they're wiping their feet on Matthew 5, where Yeshua says, don't think I came to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. For as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot of the law will be done away with. It's very plain, yet they go against the teachings of Yeshua. They have another Jesus, the December 25th kind. If he was the lamb, he would have been the firstborn of the lamb. He probably would have been born in, late February, March, early March, something like that, not December. Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built the house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, because it was founded upon a rock. And every one that heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. And that's the churches, and that's going to happen in the next few days or weeks or maybe a month or two. Or something like that. It's not going to be a year, it's going to be far less than that, in my opinion. They're going to fall apart. Because all the garbage that these jackasses have been taught in these buildings called the churches is going to fall apart. It's already beginning. None of them are going. Let me give it to you graphically today, relevant to today. None of them are telling their people it's the daughter of Babylon. None of them is sitting there saying, look, either the American government is letting these drones happen or they can't stop them. In either event, it's very bad. And it's hard to believe they can't stop them. Israel stops drones all the time. How do you stop drones? We shoot iron domes at them. Okay? Does shrapnel come down? Yes. We have warning sirens. People go in bomb shelters in their house. Is America set up for that? No. Why not? Obviously, they don't care or they don't think it'll ever happen. You could shoot them down with helicopters. You could shoot them down with guns. Regular guns, rifles, pistols, that's a stretch. Rifles, yeah. Shotguns, that's probably a stretch. Maybe not. It depends on the shooter and the shotgun and the size of the drone and everything else. I wouldn't go with the shotguns too quickly. Maybe. And you could shoot them down with jets. They're doing nothing. And they're not even telling you where they come from. So either they're the biggest nincompoops anywhere inept, and you better realize that means if that's true, which I doubt, America is so ill prepared, any of these axis of evil, Iran, China, North Korea, and Russia, could just send drones in there and destroy America. How many American people are cognizant of what I just said? Very few. Because they practice ostrich theology. What does that mean? When you see things that are scary, you put your head in the ground. Probably 90% of America has their head in the ground. The churches will not teach them Jeremiah 50, 51, and Isaiah 47. They will not do that. They will not teach Zechariah 14. They will not teach Ezekiel 8 to 11. They will not teach the book of Joel correctly, which is Gog and Magog, and you see the temple there. They're working for Satan, and Satan's not interested even in the people that worship him. He's just interested in keeping his own butt, as well as that of the demons, out of the pit for as long as he can. If he could get an extra second out of the pit, he'll sacrifice millions of people to buy a second. He's the great narcissist. I mean, he's completely crazy. He tried to overthrow his creator. Oh, and he convinced a third of the demons to try it also. And that's who they follow. He's a complete lunatic. That's who they follow. And that's why they're complete lunatics, and that's why they're being led astray. Jeremiah 50, 24. See, how many people are really going to understand to get out of Israel, you know? But to get out of America, rather, and come to Israel. I mean, pretty few. The Israelites will, including the lost tribes, but not that many believers, but some. Sorry, I went to the wrong book. Jeremiah 50, verse 24. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. They've already been taken. Tens of millions of illegal aliens, 60 to 70% of them are sleeper agents, military age males. And what? What?
Emergency.
Uh, Hang on, she's telling me something's emergency here. Coming. All right, what that was is an emergency prayer request that my wife got. She has people that put prayer requests in and stuff, so let me give you the situation and we can pray about this. There's somebody we've been praying for named Travis, and this individual's in America in a hospital, had an appendicitis attack, went to a doc in the box, and they got him in an ambulance to go to the hospital. The hospital diagnosed him with appendicitis, and they're telling him they don't have a surgeon to perform the appendectomy. Now, apparently it hasn't burst, but they're giving him a lot of morphine, and he's waiting for a surgeon in a hospital. And how can this be? Isn't this crazy? I don't know what goes on in America anymore, but I guess this is really bad. And this person has insurance, has medical insurance yet. So it's not that, oh, we don't have any money. This person's got insurance. And they are telling him he's got a blood clot in the stomach or something, and they're giving him blood thinners to reduce the clot. They're not telling him we can't do the operation until we reduce the clot. No, they're saying we don't have a surgeon. And I think it's been 36 hours or so. So if you would pray for this person, Travis, to either get healed by the Lord or get good service from the hospital. And the other thing they're not doing is transporting them to another hospital. Probably because they want the money. This person has a $2,000 deductible, which is nothing to a hospital, because they don't care if he pays $50 a month for years. They don't care about the $2,000 because they're going to hit a jackpot on the surgery. Now, could they be wanting to keep him there as long as possible because they could charge, I don't know, what do they get a day? $500, $600, $700, $800 a day for the bed. with the, the morphine and the other medicines. They probably have an IV drip. They probably have oxygen. They got blood tests, whatever, X-rays. Uh, who knows? Are they trying to drag it out? I don't know what's going on, but this thing is distressing. So please pray for Travis to either get healed by the Lord, or have the hospital get the surgery done correctly and appropriately and a quick recovery. This is just crazy. It could be unique to this hospital. The hospital could be a jackass hospital. I don't know. Okay, so America's in a snare from the Lord, because thou hast striven against the Lord. Has America striven against the Lord? Well, their legal system protects the Church of Satan on down the line, don't they? Do you think that makes Jehovah happy? Protecting the Church of Satan. Do you think he likes that? And yet run around saying they're a Christian nation. You think he likes that, with 50 pentagrams on the flag? You think he likes that? I showed you yesterday that the big Masonic temples have the same pillars and Tiffium as the Greek and Roman temple, and the White House, and the Supreme Court building, and the New York Stock Exchange, along with many other state capitals and everything else. And people think it's okay with the Lord. It's not. It's not. Because of the 2,000-year punishment in Israel, he let it go. But not anymore. So you're in the year of recompenses. And why is there a year of recompenses, which is payback? Well, it's obviously easy to understand, but the church will never teach it to you. Isaiah 34, verse 8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses, for the controversy of Zion, for the fighting over Zion. They don't want Israel to get the land back. You think America wants Israel to get the land back? Or the United Nations, or any of these crackpots? No. They don't want that to happen. Does America give perhaps 10 or 20 times more aid to Ukraine than Israel? Yeah, of course they do. Israel's a puppet state of America, but not a clear 100%, but a great extent a puppet or a proxy of America. And how many people go to church and think of Israel runs America? Oh my gosh. Let's see. Well, somebody said, poo-poo, why don't you give a scripture that shows me I'm wrong? Saying poo-poo around here, we're not the church. We don't go to churches. We're not going to. That means nothing to us. It's just noise. Our local hospital has no doctors on weekends. Things are that bad in America. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. I didn't know it's that bad. Things don't happen that bad in Israel. We have a socialized medical system, and it's against the law to not contribute to it. So I have to buy into it. But because we're retired, it costs us $350-ish a year for both of us, and there's no deductible at the hospital. But we don't like the MD, the healthcare system. We really don't use it to any great extent at all. Only in a dire emergency would we use it. We don't use it. But you know, when the doctors talk to you, it's like you were in the army and a military doctor talks to you, sort of like that. Um, they, yeah, the treatment is shoddy, but there's no such thing as going to the hospital on the weekend and there's no doctors there. That I never ever heard of in Israel. Never heard of that. They give old, out of date medicines. They use medicines that America might have stopped using 10, 15 years ago. They're still useless here. Um, the wealthier people in Israel have a private healthcare system where they have a network of doctors that do not take the regular uh, insurance. There's three different insurance companies you could use in Israel, but you have to pick one of them, and it's the law. And you get other benefits from that too, you know. So they make it very affordable for retired people, but you still got to pay into it. I don't, you know, there's no choice on that. So, um, but they're, I mean, you can go see, if you go to see a family practice doctor, there's no deductible, okay? And when you get lab work done, even if they do, you know, 20 lab tests, it's free. Prescriptions, most of them you pay 15%. There are lunatic drugs that you might have to pay a lot of money for, but normally it's just pay 15%. And if you go to see a specialist like, oh, I don't know, a dermatologist, a orthopedic surgeon, whatever, you have to pay 35, roughly $10 every 3 months. So, well, I'll explain. The first visit, you have to give them. It's a little less than $10. Um, and they're not allowed to charge you again for 90 days. So what a lot of these jackass doctors do is they get their $10 out of you and then they book you 91 days down the road so they can hit you for another $10. But if there's really something wrong with you and they're going to start seeing you every week or every 2 weeks, they got to do the visits without collecting that $10. Isn't that nice? Most of the doctors are just churning you in and out. Um, they will take so many blood tests from you. I mean, like 10. I mean, I went once, and you know they had to take two syringes, big syringes of blood out of me, like a Dracula thing, for all the blood tests. And they want a urine test, they want a stool test. Then they start with X-rays and sonograms, and oh my gosh, they drive you crazy. They will drive you crazy. And you know what you got to do is sit there and tell them, hey, you know, I don't want to go through all this, you know, this kind of thing. But I don't even bother with them. I mean, they're such morons. I mean, I went to the ophthalmologist for a while. They just waste your time. Every ophthalmologist in America wants to dilate your eyes, right? To see what's going on. These jerks never dilate your eyes. I mean, they're so bad. And if you want to know who's really bad, the optometrists in Israel, they can't refract. They're terrible. And they sell glasses here that scratch up. You buy glass-proof lenses, and you use microcloth or Zeiss lens cleaning cloth or something. It doesn't matter. Within 2, 3, 4 weeks, your lenses are scratched up. They're just terrible. So we do have health care in Israel, and it's affordable, and I never heard of anything like there's no doctor over the weekend. I never heard anything like this. Um, I have seen people go to the clinic, and you can what you're supposed to do if you want to go to the clinic is you call the same day early in the morning or the next day, and you go to the clinic. You get an appointment. Usually the doctors are open till about 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, like 8 to 12 or 8 to 1, and it's not that hard to get in. And they got to refer you to the specialist. You can't call and just make appointments with specialists. I guess some of them might see you, some of them might not, I don't know. And what else? If you want a doctor to come to the house, it's 290 shekels. It's about 75, $80, maybe $80, something like that. 85. It's about $85. And you can call your health plan and they'll send a doctor to your house within 3 hours. And I think that works day and night. Or they might not go in the middle of the night. It probably works till 8 or 9 at night, and then starts about 7 in the morning, or maybe it happens in the middle of the night. Ambulances are free. They come reasonably quickly, depending where you are. They're free. They usually have a paramedic. Sometimes EMTs and paramedics. It varies, you know. They're nice, and they're probably about as good as other paramedics, I guess. I don't know. They're very nice to you. They have volunteer workers if there's a sudden emergency, and they ride motorcycles. They have motorcycles with 2 wheels in the front and 1 wheel in the back, and they're about 200cc, and they move. And they got cut through the traffic, and they have an ability to administer oxygen, probably enough for 15 or 30 minutes in this motorcycle. And they have, I don't think they give you medicines. They can bandage things and maybe put you in traction or something like that, and they take your blood pressure. I think they have a pulse oximeter, I'm not sure. They have blood pressure, and they phone you in. They take the vitals and they phone it in while you're waiting for the ambulance to come. So the fire department doesn't run paramedics like in America. They don't do that. And what else? That's about it. So while it's bad, it's not that bad, unfortunately. As you know, my wife was in the hospital a while ago, and she, because of the war, everybody that was admitted was underground because they built huge bomb shelters under the hospital. So there was like 8 people in a room. Well, they had the curtains and stuff like that. Very hard to sleep. Very hard to get anybody to help you. And, you know, it's, but gosh, it's probably better than America. It's horrible what's going on over there with the healthcare, It really is. So, let's see if we got any questions. I'll be happy to answer questions. Price of everything is going crazy here in Israel too. Canada, I heard something about a strike or something about postal service. I don't have the details. Yeah, that's pretty bad. My understanding is Trudeau's a pretty big loser. No, ambulances are free here. The fire department is free. The police are free. The police can be slow because I live in an outlying, what you would call a village. It probably has 3,500 people. But we, because of the war, we set up, I don't know what you would call it in America. Let me think. It's like a government sanctioned security service or militia with volunteers that have police and military experience. I'm too old to go in it. And they wouldn't let me in. You know, they'd probably cut you off at 60 or 62 or something like that. I'm more than that. So we have gates in the community, and they'll close the gates when there's tension. And the people who live here get stickers on their car that they got to show up for personally, and they screen people coming in and out. They're armed, and they patrol the community with vehicles with, I think they got a blue light or something. I think it's blue. And they got guns, and they got connections on the radio to the military and to the police, two radio nets. And not everybody has a gun and military and police experience. They have other people that go with somebody that does, so they pair them up. And the interesting thing is the headquarters for this operation, which covers several villages, is a very short walk from my house, not far. So we don't have much of a threat in the community. We don't have crime really because it's being patrolled 24/7. Now, I try to explain that to my dogs, but they still think every cat in the village is a member of Hezbollah. I can't convince them that cats don't go in Hezbollah, but every time they see a cat, they're after it. That's a joke, of course. Okay. How was World War II? Well, that's a very nasty comment, so we'll take that off. But let's talk about World War II, because I think that people in America need to know a few things, okay? World War II ended in 1945. The generals and admirals running the war, and to a great extent the colonels as well, were probably age 50 to 65. Okay? So a lot of the older generals were born back in the 1880s. Do you understand that? The generals in World War II were born, I would say mostly 1880s, 1890s, maybe 1900, 1903. So they were really before cars were prevalent. They were before people had electricity in their houses. They were before airplanes were flying. The guys that won World War II were of a completely different genre than what you see today. Okay? America didn't have multiple religions back then. They had some divisions where they picked on the blacks and they kept them suppressed. That went on, segregation and suppression. And they kept most of them out of combat units or giving them combat jobs in the military. They were very discriminative towards them. But they didn't have much else to discriminate against. The only real religions you had in America, 1939 to 45, was you had the Jews, you had Catholics, and you had the churchianity, Christianity churches. There might have been a rare Buddhist or Hindu temple hanging around in America someplace. There was no such thing as a Church of Satan running around, maybe undercover, but not openly. Men were marrying women and women were marrying men. They had no drug problem. In some of the ghettos, people were taking drugs, I suppose. It was very small and it wasn't much of it going on. The average American didn't know or understand or want to know or understand anything other than alcohol. And there was a lot of alcohol use for sure. And smoking, tobacco, but not marijuana. And the people were pretty united, okay? They weren't all divided up with hatred and stuff like that, okay? They didn't have that. It didn't go on, okay? So the people got behind America and they volunteered to go fight. And the American soldier was, raised with a mother that stayed home, most of them, the vast majority, and a father that went to work. And they didn't have a high crime rate, they didn't have terrorism in the country, they didn't have all this stuff. The government was behind civil rights and protecting the Constitution. Tax rate during the war was 1 to 2%, the income tax. And states didn't have income tax very much at all, if any. 1 to 2% income tax. People would run around saying, I'm proud to pay my taxes. How many people say that now? Nobody. They weren't taxing people into the ground. I guess most of the country people got driver's licenses, but in a lot of the country, kids would drive in the rural areas when they were, 11, 12 years old. They would drive around the farm or go to town and the sheriff looked the other way and that kind of thing. Insurance wasn't mandatory on cars. They had no safety inspections. You could tint your windows all you wanted. You just had to buy your license plates, which back then were probably $5 a year or something like that. They didn't have gun control. You were able to get guns mail order, except maybe 4 or 5 states prohibited it. You were able to buy machine guns. Yeah, you were able to go buy machine guns. They had lots of World War II machine guns. The American military was selling their surplus weapons to the people. The NRA would buy them and sell you these rifles, M1 Garands and stuff like that for $5. Even when I went to high school in New York City, in the Bronx, they had a rifle club. And kids used to bring, it was all 22 rifles. They used to bring their 22 rifles to class with ammo. Then they weren't supposed to keep the ammo in there, and they had a case with a gun. And they had a range in the basement. They practiced shooting. And this was, of course, to encourage people to go in the military. Imagine going to school today with kids chugging around 22 rifles with ammo. Yet we didn't have a football team because they eliminated the football teams because the kids were killing each other, getting into fights on the football field. So I think all the schools ended the football games because they had too many casualties. The world of America today is a completely different America, and they are not going to do well in a war. They're way too divided against each other, and they're way too screwed up. And a lot of the people that went into the American military went in not because they're patriots and love America, because they didn't have a way to go to get a job. So they joined the military. They get an enlistment bonus. They get a skill. They get a job. They get a pension or retirement. They get medical. They can raise a family. The military still takes care of their people. You could still get if you live. You could still live in base housing with a family. Or you'll get an off-base housing allowance, which will allow you to live. And you could go to doctors with their insurance. Or if you're single and you don't have a family yet, you can live on the base. Now you don't get rent. You don't pay rent. Now you eat in the dining room. You get all the food you want. You want to go for seconds, thirds, fourths. Nobody says anything. I worked for the government and I lived on a military base once, and I ate in the dining room, and it was pretty good actually. It was pleasing. I was impressed. It was good food. So they now they could buy a car. They're not paying rent. They're not paying for food. They're not paying for medical. What are they going to do with their money? They buy a car. They leave it on the base. And then they get bored with living on the base, and then they get an off-base living allowance, and maybe they get a roommate, or they hook up with somebody of the opposite sex, get married, and they're both in the military, and they're both going to get a living allowance, and they got a life. But after you do 8 years or something like that, then the enlistment bonuses get pretty high, and they start giving you rank, and they start making out okay. And if they go in when they're 19 years old, let's say, right? They got 20 years, they're 39 years old. Most of them are going to get out. They're not going to keep them. If they're very fortunate, they may get to put 25 years in. See, the military doesn't want them when they get older, because that's when you start getting physical problems. You get knee injuries, neck injuries, back, hip, ankle. They're not that crackerjack anymore. Now, if they really have a skill set that's important to the government, maybe they were a drone operator and they got many years of experience, and that's not physically demanding. So they might let them go 25 years. But to go 30 years, you'd probably have to be at least a full-blood colonel or a general, and they'll let them usually go a long time. But they get out, they get a pension, they get medical benefits of some sort, right? And so they get out, let's say they're 39 and they're 45 or 44. They got a skill set. Let's say they worked on a base or on a ship or something, working in the mess hall, food. Well, who would hire them? Well, places like Denny's, the buffet restaurant chains would hire them. Other places where there's mass production food. Some hotels, like you have around Disney, where you get a room and breakfast and everybody goes to the breakfast buffet in the morning. Those kind of restaurants where there's mass feeding. School districts would hire them. Universities that run dining rooms would hire them. Big corporations that run dining rooms that hire them. Lots of places would hire them. Resorts would hire them. And they get a nice wage. Or maybe they know repairing vehicles or aircraft or helicopters. They get gobbled up by private industry. Or maybe they know communications. There's people that would hire them for that. Or they work on electronic equipment. They would get hired. So it's not that hard to get yourself into a position where you're going to have a nice job when you get out of the military. So these kids that grow up in the ghetto, mom and dad are on welfare, or they're broken up, single parent family. They manage to get through high school. They stay out of the gangs. They're not drug addicts. They get in the military. Now they got a way to go. And if they spend enough time in the military, they could even get a college education out of the thing. So after 20 years, they could get out and probably get a GI Bill college education or something, So, this is what you got in the military. In World War II, you had Americans that were successful in life joining the military to defend their beloved country against foreign oppression. Okay? A completely different thing. And they went in the military, and then they got out of the military. The war was over. Enough. Let's go home and rebuild America economically. And that's what they did. And they did a great job. And things went well in America till the Vietnam War started up. And that's when God started punishing them again. How did America do in the Vietnam War? They lost against a bunch of guys that were rice farmers wearing pajamas. Because they were drafting kids that were goners. I am of that era. The kids were potheads, LSD heads, drug heads, hippies, free love, no morals, no ethics. If it feels good, do it. Make love, not war. They hated the whole army idea and all of this. They couldn't stand it. And the Americans took them in the military and brainwashed them into becoming killers. And they weren't that. And they didn't want to be that. And a lot of them were getting injured and killed in Vietnam and cracked up mentally because they didn't have a mindset for it. Why are we fighting the Vietnamese people? They're not attacking America. What did they do to us? Why are we burning their villages? Why are we killing their women and children? A lot of the military were gung ho people that were descended from the people that fought in World War II. There was officers in the American Army in Vietnam that fought in World War II as officers. I've met them. Okay? And they were in conflict with these younger people. And American military was a piece of crap during Vietnam. Then when we hit Iraq in around 1990-91, we had more of a volunteer army because the draft was over, I think in 74 or 75. So we had a volunteer army and they were more motivated to fight. But America had a rough time with the Iraq military. They did. I know guys that were there, they had a rough time with it, but they got it conquered. But they had to use overwhelming firepower. 6 aircraft carriers were there. They had battleships shelling Iraq. 6 aircraft carriers. They had all kinds of jets, tanks, everything, pounding the daylights out of these guys. And it took a long time till they beat them down. Imagine fighting Russia and China, North Korea, Iran. You got it yet? Did you figure it out yet? We lost in Afghanistan. We never won in North Korea. The only real clear military victory America had was World War II. The Korean conflict is still under a ceasefire. We never won it. Vietnam, we never won. We evacuated. Iraq, yeah, we won. Afghanistan, we didn't win. Where else did we win? We never win. American military is not up to what's going to be hitting it. Now, Biden is now moving to give amnesty to all the aliens that entered in illegally with legislation, which, according to Trump, there could be 30 million illegals here. A retired Border Patrol agent from Texas, a high-ranking one, said could be as high as 50 million. So just go with Trump's figure, 30 million. 60 to 70% of them are military-age males, i.e. sleeper agents, coming by themselves. So using the low figures, we got 18 million of them running around America. Is it so far-fetched that they're building the drones in America? Because America only searches something like 1 to 3% of the containers that come in. So they're sending the parts for the drones broken down in different containers and different shipments, and then they assemble them where? On the 350,000 acres of land that China has purchased next to American military bases. Or maybe not. Maybe just the Chinese people or the Russian people or who knows what people in America just go rent buildings and assemble the drones inside buildings with sleeper agents previously trained that know how to assemble them. Maybe they're launching them. It seems to me that's where they're coming from. They're not coming from a ship in the Atlantic because they're going all over the country. So there would have to be ships in the Pacific and the Atlantic. And if there are and America doesn't know about them, you're in real trouble. And if America does know about them and is doing nothing but letting it to happen, well, that's what happened on October 7th in Israel. It was let to happen. Netanyahu visited Biden September 23rd. Previously, Biden didn't want Netanyahu there, and then all of a sudden, yeah, come. September 23rd, he comes. October 7th, it happens. You think the two of them didn't know about it? Come on. So they are letting this happen. Leaving the border open does destroy America, does it not? Well, letting the drones happen is consistent with leaving the border open. It's going to destroy America. The beast is trying to get rid of the daughter of Babylon whore. And it looks like it'll work. Biden would tell us if we needed to know. So you think that American people shouldn't be told what's going on with the drones? That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I would have a different opinion, but you're certainly entitled to that opinion. But nobody's proposing anything about the sleeper agents. It went away from these sites. They're not your friend. They're only trying to promote the things they want to promote. It's not, they're not, not a good idea. So, the drone thing is probably the intel, they're probably picking up reconnaissance intel, and that intel is only good for a few days. That's why they keep repeat flying. Okay, because they fly over a base, then the colonels and the generals say, oh, we got recon, let's change this defense and that, let's move this here, do this, lock this up, open this up. So they keep going back because things are changing. So they want to have current information. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So America's already been invaded. You could thank Biden for that. Okay? And it's going to go down. It's all laid out in Jeremiah 50, 51, and Isaiah 47. It's all laid out, and people reject it. So what can you do? The vast majority of people are going to reject the Bible prophecies. There's nothing you can do about it. They're not going to receive it. They don't like the Word of God. They like to make believe they like the Word of God, but that's not it. Pizza Hut or Domino's. Oh, Domino's is better. They don't have that here in Israel. Most of the pizza, unless you find a place that makes it clean, is using dirty oils on the pizza. Bad oils for you. And I don't think pizza's a great healthy food. It sure tastes good. There's great pizza in my village, and I often want to call them up and get it delivered. But, it's such a carb overload. I could eat 2 slices and that's it, but sometimes I like to eat 4, but I won't. If you eat 4 slices, you get a carb overload. That's not good. A fake recorded stream. This guy's a liar. Get rid of him. So when are things going to go down? Well, like I said, the intel from the reconnaissance doesn't last long. Russia is furious at America. Iran is furious with America, especially after Syria. Whew. China, their economy is in the toilet. They're furious with America. And North Korea has a hate level through the roof. They're furious with everybody, including America and South Korea. The only chance that Iran, North Korea, China, and Russia have of winning is if they all do it at the same time. Attack America and NATO at the same time. Then they can win. If they go onesie-twosie, they'll lose. So their most intelligent move would be for Putin to start attacking NATO in Europe. Iran started attacking countries in the Middle East. North Korea attacked South Korea. China hit Taiwan, all at the same time to overwhelm America. That's probably the only way they'll win. And that's probably what they'll do. And people will refer to it as World War III, which is not a biblical phrase, but it gets the point across. It's Jeremiah 30, verse 11. Although God will have a hand in burning some of these countries up, they're going to have the wars too. And now you may have noticed things are shifting more and more towards Israel. Hamas is getting closer and closer to a ceasefire in Gaza. They're refusing to give us a list of the hostages, so they're going to drag it out. Look, they might do a ceasefire on January 19th, the day before Trump gets in. But they're very afraid that Trump will get into office and they'll get a phone call. Give all the hostages back, or we're going to drop 1,500 bombs on you. You know? And Trump says, you know, all hell will break loose on them in Gaza if they don't give up all the hostages. And if Trump says it, do you think he won't do it? No, I think he'll do it. Do you think Trump would allow Israel to get the Palestinian civilians out of Gaza and stash them in Syria? And then the ones that are left that won't leave, obliterate? Yeah, but they won't bomb them to death. They'll cut the humanitarian aid, the water, the food, the electric, and the internet, and just wait for them to surrender. It may take a month, it may take some time, but they'll surrender. It may not take much time. That's all you got to do. That's it. There's nothing more to it. Biden kept screaming humanitarian aid, and that was dragging out the war. All you had to do was just cut everything off and be a matter of days. That's Biden. Biden, with the immigration, clearly wants to destroy the United States by giving these illegals amnesty. It's going to make it much more difficult for Trump to deport them. So he's nasty towards Trump by his actions, not his words, but you got to look at his actions. If they could fly drones over America freely, like they've been doing for weeks all over American military bases, they're in Washington, D.C., flying around the Capitol. How hard do you think it is for them to arm these drones with incendiary agents? In other words, explosives that cause fires, and start dropping them all over the United States. You think that would be hard? I don't. I don't think it would be hard either. It says in Jeremiah 50:51 that whoever the leader is of the United States, which your possibilities right now would be Biden, or he's gone, Kamala, or Trump, gives their hand. In other words, when the fighting begins in America, it surrenders. So it could likely be Biden. It could likely happen before January 20th. And Biden surrenders because he's in on it. And heck, military stand down. And so you're finished. What's going to happen to those that don't go on the great exodus to Israel? They're going to die in America. That's what's going to happen. I made quite a few videos over the years about the daughter of Babylon being America. You go to the YouTube channel and you click on this section, live. That's where most of my videos are. You can fast forward through the news and listen to the Bible teaching. So let's take a look and see what's happening since I started the broadcast, in case something big popped up, because We got a prayer request for, I believe it's healing for CM, Charlie Mike, CM. Boy, hold on, I don't think it's a healing request. Let me check. No, it's not healing. A prayer request for CM to walk with the Lord and stay away from demons. For CM, prayer request, walk with the Lord, stay away from demons. I think I'm trying to make sense out of multiple emails. Also, let's toss CM, Charlie Mike, toss. CM, Charlie Mike, toss. Okay, that's it. I get sometimes people send me very complicated prayer requests and toss requests that involve uh, multiple ideas, concepts, and people, and it gets very hard to follow it. But I try, and I usually get it right. Okay, let's take a look at the what's going on. If I could see anything happened of any significance recently, let's see. We're still fighting with them in Gaza, by the way. A few days ago, Israel had destroyed 86% of what was left of the Syrian army equipment and military supplies and so forth and weapons. I think it's probably at about 90% today. There was at least 60 something airstrikes last night on the military infrastructure and equipment and weapons in Syria, so I think we're probably at a good 70%. I'm sorry, 90% destroyed. Keep looking if anything else happened. Please pray for my jaw going out of joint again. It's still doing it a little. It's a lot better, but when I talk a lot with the live streams, it starts happening again. No, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, so I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing. My wife's recovering nicely, but please keep the prayers. She has good days and bad days. Um, Pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, to be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for our finances. We definitely are hitting a dry spell on offerings, so please pray for that. And pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And you got my email address in there. It's Israel Giving with the number 7 at Gmail, and I do answer real questions. And I put all information up there at the top of the chat for PayPal, and I don't know anymore if the description box is still appearing in the video, so I'm gonna have to deal with that. But you can always email me if you're interested. And on that note, I'm out. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.